Welcome to the last lecture in the series of Low Vision for Sub-Saharan Africa. I am Dr. Abraham, the voice behind the text. These lectures are designed by the Wales Optometry Postgraduate Education Center, WOPEC, and the Optometry Department of Malawi College of Health Science. After this lecture, I encourage you to go to our website and register so that you can be awarded a certificate for this course. The link on your screen will send you straight to the registration page. You will need a prefix and a code to register. The default prefix is WOPEC and your code is 1234. We have traveled a long journey and gone through goal setting to assessment of visual function, and now we are at the last leg of prescribing solutions. In our last lecture, we looked at optical low vision devices. In this lecture, we would explore the world of non-optical low vision aids, and we will be surprised how much we have around us that we can easily use to improve the lives of people living with low vision. Like all other low vision aids, the non-optical aids are meant to make the client use their residual vision for as many activities as possible, and this is mostly done by controlling the lightening, using other means of magnification, example, increasing the size of objects or bringing things closer to the eyes, which is an application of relative distance magnification and relative size magnification. We also look at improving contrast and putting other senses to work, like our sense of touch, hearing, and smell. Illumination quantifies the level of brightness on a surface. A lot of conditions that cause low vision result in poor contrast sensitivity and difficulties with glare. The good news is, light can sometimes be controlled, and if we do that well enough, we can alleviate the symptoms and improve the vision as well. The inverse square law governs the amount of brightness on a surface. This law states that if you are in a room and then you have the distance between the bulb or lamp in your room and the desk on which you are working on right now, then the brightness on the surface of that desk would increase by 4 times. Therefore, getting more light on the ceiling may not be the solution, but bringing the light closer to the desk would make a very huge difference. So task lighting is often recommended. This can be done through the use of table lamps, torchlight, and headlamps. To be able to properly estimate the amount of illumination required, Whitaker and Lovicated gives us some guidelines to know how much light is enough light. Light will often improve contrast, and therefore the reserve rule is applied. If your client needs to do a spot reading task, then you need to apply the 3:1 reserve rule, and for fluent reading, you need a 10:1 contrast sensitivity reserve. Like I pointed out previously, if you need to get onto the cloud, which is your target, then aim for the stars. To demonstrate how the reserve works, we have our Pelly-Robson contrast sensitivity chart. The scores in colors are logarithmic values, but we need values with a linear relationship, so we would use their corresponding contrast sensitivity values in percentages. If a client wishes to read a target with a contrast of 9%, then to undertake spot reading with a reserve of 3:1, we will need to improve the contrast until the client is able to perceive a contrast level of 3%. If the client wants to read fluently for the same target, we would apply the 10:1 rule, and therefore we need to improve the contrast level to 0.9%, which is approximately 1.1% on the chart as a low estimate and 0.7% as a high estimate. You should know that these calculated values are starting points for the practitioner, and you may have to work around these values with your client to get the best result. Putting glare in check is another important aspect of light control. Even though we need more light to improve contrast, too much of it will degrade the quality of images. Secondly, if a client has cataract or any other condition that will cause an increase in disability glare, then even the smallest light will be problematic. To control glare, ensure even distribution of light around the environment, and therefore diffusers can be very beneficial. You need to make sure the light is very calming. We don't want it to be so bright and so focused. Secondly, you should have a lighting system that will allow variation in the brightness of light. Some light, like the sun, can't be turned off by a switch, so we can use other means such as wide-rimmed hats, umbrellas, and filters, including sunglasses, to reduce their effect and also improve vision. We could also employ the use of large font-sized books and print. This can be used in conjunction with optical aids. We do not have a lot of large print books in most sub-Saharan African countries, but they are quite easy to make. If you are not infringing on any copyright law, you can photocopy what you want to read in large print or format. Most photocopy machines allow you to print in varying image sizes or varying print sizes. If the print gets bigger, you may not need an optical magnifier, and if you do, you will be okay with a low-powered one. Now let's go into our homes. Your home can be modified to make it easier to use. For example, on the left side is a picture of a stairway, which will be difficult for any person with poor vision to safely descend. But on the right side, the stairways has been repainted with enough cues that allows you to know where one step ends and where the other begins. Cooking can also be made easier for people with low vision. Pounding equipment can be given visual cues, as seen in the left bottom picture, and therefore make it possible for somebody with low vision to do the pounding. Chopping boards can be made with very high contrast. It will be better to use a white chopping board than a wooden chopping board. If it's a local kitchen, you can advise your client to do most of his work outside in the open when there is enough illumination. We know there are some things that we will not have direct control over, but we can have some level of influence in making sure they change for the better. We can advocate to change the way the print media and other media present their print. Their font sizes can be made a bit bigger to enable most people to be able to read. Important notices should be highlighted than hidden in very small print as seen in the picture on your screen, where the advert for a training opening is made so minute compared to other news items. Manufacturers of consumer items can be impressed upon to make sure their prints are legible, or they add a leaflet with large prints in their product for people to read, because most prints on consumer items we purchase are often smaller than the print on some of the smallest coins in the world. Electronic vision enhancement systems are available almost everywhere in the world now. One of the most popular of such systems are phones. Almost everybody has a phone in this age. Tablets and laptops or personal computers are some of the most used electronic vision enhancement systems. Only that most of us may not be aware they can be put to such use. There are links on this page to some YouTube tutorials on how to set up your laptop to be used by a person with low vision. There are apps that can be accessed on www.henshaw.org.uk to transform your phone or tablet into a functioning low vision aid. You could as well navigate to any accessibility option in the settings of any device, and you'll be fascinated as to the number of tools that are available to you. Pocket electronic magnifiers are great devices to have. With a size as small as a phone, it can fit into any pocket, purses, and bags. It is relatively less expensive and can magnify up to 40 times. It has color inversion. Some have more than one background color, so the client can choose what suits him or her. However, you are required to have steady hands to use this equipment and may have postural difficulties if used for a long time. There are other add-ons that you can affix to your computer or TV and still be able to use it to magnify print and object. This includes the mouse reader and the MagniLink S by Eschenbach. Closed-circuit TV have been around for a long while. They have relatively higher magnification and also has multiple color inversions. And there are less postural difficulties compared to others in this category. However, it is expensive and not very easy to carry around. We would move on to other devices or methods that rely on the use of other senses apart from the eyes, and this includes the braille, which relies on the sense of touch. The braille embossers are mostly found in schools. because most parents cannot afford it for their children. The sense of hearing can be harnessed through the use of talking books, level indicators, that's liquid level indicators, talking clocks, even talking phones with the advancement of speech-to-text and text-to-speech technologies. These types of aids will become more available with time. A white cane or a guide dog is often preferred because of the level of independence it gives to the user. The techniques for using all these will be addressed in a later lecture, but guide dogs are almost non-existent in most parts of sub-Saharan Africa. There are other ways of making the lives of people living with low vision much safer. Some of these are minor changes to our environment which may not cost much, but if it is done, would improve the livelihood of people with visual impairment and make them less independent and make them less dependent on others. One of such is taking care of the open drains in our communities. This picture on the left shows a pathway leading straight into an open drain, which is on a lower ground level, and therefore many people may not see it when approaching the drain. A little bridge over the drain with rails would keep people safe, and this is not just for people with low vision, but for children and people with other forms of disability. The position of signs at locations where there is danger can prevent a lot of accidents, especially for people who are visually impaired. Pathways could be given visual cues and potholes in the road or gullies in the road filled to prevent any form of accident. There are a lot more of environmental changes and construction that could provide support to people living with low vision. Things like uneven staircases without rails, having a signpost on the roof of a hospital building, obstacles placed in constructed walkways can be hazardous. Therefore, when these things are being designed, they should have in mind that not everyone who would use them will be fully sighted. In so many ways, there is a lot we can do to help people with low vision function normally with less impediment. You may have realized that even though individuals may be able to work so hard to get things right, there are more stakeholders, including manufacturing companies, architects, city planners, government or local authorities, who need to be brought on board to make sure the changes we make in our homes and the provisions of aid is not negated by the undesirable nature of the external environment. In the end, we should know that disability is not inability, and no one deserves to be left behind. This brings us to the end of this series. Congratulations on coming this far, and I hope you have learned something valuable. Do not forget to give us feedback in the comment section. We'll also try to answer all your questions. You can log on to our website at www.wopec.co.uk and register for the opportunity to get a certificate for yourself. Your prefix will be WOPEC and your code will be 1234. We give special thanks to Dr. Barbara Ryan, the director of WOPEC, and Mr. Marek Karas, the low vision module leader at WOPEC, for their contribution to this work. Bye for now.